Divine greetings, entities, energies, lovelies, bodies of light, like this light beaming on me right now. The seekers and sojourners of truth, the 144, chosen of the chosen few. You know who you are. I greet you always in the love that lights the truth from my heart to yours. I am Akila Textri, the divine energy essence of it all, reporting to you live under my umbrella tree from 5D, the fifth dimension, always bringing you the news to infuse if you so choose. So let's infuse with this light grid activation on. Let's not get fried in the grid. All right, so first and foremost, happy new moon in Gemini. I know this is a day later for everyone else. For me, I'm still in my new moon vibes because, as you all know, I'm pushing time. So this is really bedtime for me. This is late night hours for me. But it is, so I'm still in my heart chakra day. I'm still in my green. Those who know, I do the manifestations with the new moon. So 3 days before, I'm working on my crown, coming down to the third eye, to the throat, which was why I was in my blue yesterday, in my true blue. And now I'm in my green and my good vibes, catching all my good vibes, all my good light. It's still aligned with the sun. So the moon is still aligned with the sun. So it's coming across, although it's, it's not in its exact conjunction, but I'm still in my new moon in Gemini vibe. So I'm giving you this energy, and happy 666 portal was what was happening, I know, yesterday for everybody. But remember, I'm still on that day. So I'm still in the portal. But yeah, 666 meaning, and I know when we hear 666, we tend to get that, taste in our mouth of negativity, but I'm here to just, slap that bad taste away, because it is nothing but our carbon makeup. As I've said before, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. It's our carbon makeup, right? The mark of the beast is us. We're the beast, we're the humans, we're the Carmen, we're the carbon copies of life, so to speak. Wow, I never looked at it like that. All right. Instant download. We are carbon copies of life, right? I patent that. With that said, as we're going through the portal, for those who don't know, whenever the portals are wherever there are repetitive numbers, 4 4 5 5 6 6. This is a 6 6 portal. Happens every year, the 6th day of the 6th month. Next month will be a 7 7. The reason why I say 666, because if you write the date 6 6 24, that 2 and 4 is another 6. That's if you write it 24 instead of 2024, right? So there's another 6 there to be had. There's a message of 666, and I'm going to get into that. I may do a little short snippet about it. It's kind of been on me to do a short. I'm not one who have done shorts before, but I'm going to work it out. We're going to work it out today, right? Speaking about this 666, because all of the 3 planets, the 3 celestial bodies that were in an exact conjunction was 16, 16, 16. So I saw the 666 again. So let me get into this information, because this new moon in Gemini was coming with so much. I had to meditate and meditate again, and got some messages out of it. The main thing is knowing that it is manifesting the wisdom, right? The wisdom that was coming from the full moon, that we were having the full moon in Sagittarius, where I was saying that the Sagittarius is bringing that wisdom. We are to be looking at gratitude for the wisdom, and that's when we were in opposition, right? So if you remember, opposition is when the sun and the moon, we doing the dance, the transcend dance with the sun and the moon. I hear you, bird. And opposition is when they, the full moon is when they are in complete opposition, and then the moon comes around into alignment, boom, they meet up. That's a tango. I call it the tango, or I call it the kiss and make up. They in opposition when they apart, then they come together, new moon, kiss and make up, boom. So what it's bringing is, it's bringing that wisdom from the full moon, from that opposition. It's bringing that wisdom that the full moon in Sagittarius was highlighting, shooting for that wisdom, pulling the arrow back. And so we're bringing that wisdom, manifesting that wisdom into a discernment, bringing us into Gemini, the 2, the twins. We are to discern between the 2. It is a contrast. right? And it is to be a beautiful contrast that brings complement, right? When we can have the two into the one, back into the two, understanding that the two is always the one, because the two comes from the one, it goes back to the one, and it's an ebb and flow within our divine design. We come into the ethers as we come from oneness. We come from the sea of cosmic consciousness, one with all, and we come into this space, this plane of duality. We split, the dichotomy of the soul, and then it is our job as we're here on this earth plane to transcend the duality back into the oneness, remembering that we're always one to begin with, right? And back into the duality again, allowing the duality to happen, right? When we have that harmony, we can allow the ebb and flow of the duality, knowing that the duality creates the harmony, knowing that the duality comes out of the harmony of one, which also creates the Trinity, the third party, right? Our superconscious mind, however you choose to look at that, right? So the harmony between our conscious, this is just a little soul talk, the harmony between the soul, hello butterfly, just flew right over me, butterfly in the sky. I always sing that song in my head. I know Queen Poe does it too. I'm always like, ooh, there go my song every time she sing it. Butterfly in the sky. I sing it all the time as soon as I see a butterfly. But the two, what I was saying about the soul, I digress back into the soul. The conscious and the subconscious, when they harmonize, you give way to the superconscious, the Christ conscious, right? And that is the virgin birth, as they say, right? The feminine being the subconscious mind, being your Aset. That is how Aset became impregnated, when she remembers, because all of the memories are in the feminine energy. Feminine energy holds the memories, right? This is why we have the mitochondria. This is why the women carries on the memory. It's not even just about tradition like with elephants, but it's about memory. We carry that carbon copy memory, right? The imprint, the blueprint for the imprint of our soul. So the feminine is very important. It's important to be receptive, which is what this message is about too, being very receptive in this season. All the planets are lined up saying the same thing. Be receptive. This is about receptive completion. The number 6 represents that receptive completion, right? So the new moon, what it is, let me get right into it. Let me make sure, because I want to talk about the aspects so we could just tie it all together and see how the cosmos are playing a part in me, the cosmos in me, the cosmic dance that we're doing, the universe in me that is dancing with the universe in the ethers, right? So we're looking at our cosmic map right now, going to the map and seeing how it lines up for us. So these are some truths that, some truth resonance that I see. I wanted to make sure I get the 6 out. I spoke about the 6. There's a duality. There's knowing that we're coming from that season of Taurus, which was earth, grounding in the earth and gaining a new perspective in the earth, so that we can have that wisdom, have that true discernment, where we are now in the air sign, in the wind, in the wisdom of the wind, in the throat chakra season. Like it's tied to all of this, right? So let me get right into it. The new moon, let me speak about it. Let me share it with you. It's a lot that I've gotten, and I want to get into the aspects. So this new moon is bringing true perspectives, as I spoke on, into a power, our power of discernment, right? And it is when we discern what is true from the illusions or the falsities, right? This is when we see the difference. This is helping us to discern what is an illusion. What are the illusions in life that we have been living in? What are the falsities in life that we have been living in? This is what the duality is bringing us to. It's not to harm you. It's not to confuse you. The duality, the twins and the duality is helping you to have a contrast and helping you with wisdom, right? We always say, what's that saying? I pray that I have the wisdom to know the difference between the two, the serenity prayer, right? God grant me the serenity to release the things that I can't, something like that. So I always mix that part up, but I know that last part, with wisdom. Right? Grant me the courage to change the things I can change. Grant me the serenity to release the things that I cannot change. And grant me the wisdom to know the difference between the two. Serenity now. Right? So it's being able to discern what is true from the illusion and the falsities. The two twins are contrasting ideas or concepts where we are to find a complementary balance. Right? It is the harmony of duality where the two becomes one within the two, as I said before. So some of you may have been seeing numbers 212. Those are some numbers that have been coming up for me too around this time. Why I'm saying 2 into the 1 and back into the 2. 212. It's just letting you know there's unification within the harmony of duality. It's always there. Where you see duality, there is definitely a unification when you find the harmony. And as I always say, where duality meets in the center of infinite existence is love. Right? So this stellium, the next thing to know is there's a stellium with this. There's a bunch of planets hanging out in Gemini. And what I like about this stellium, something that I noticed, is that the stellium has been traveling, like these couple of planets been hopping from sign to sign with each other. If you look back at it from around January, from around the Capricorn season, Mars, Venus, all of them, they tend to, especially the personal planets, they tend to pack up together, move together in that sign. And that we saw it happen into Aquarius. They were all moving together again through Pisces. And it wasn't until, because they were all planets were going direct, so everybody was just moving together, moving it along. And especially around Pisces, everybody was hanging out in Pisces. When it got to April, when it got to Aries, is when they kind of started to have a little distance, because Mercury went into retrograde, Venus kept moving, right? So there was a stellium in Aries as well, being that Chiron in the north node is already there. And then we went into Taurus, and they all came along in Taurus, and Jupiter and Uranus was already there. Right? And even with Pisces, Saturn and Neptune was already there. Even in Aquarius, Pluto was there. Pluto just went into Aquarius around January. So you have this unique stellium with all these planets, mainly the personal planets, moving right along. And in this switch, Jupiter moved. Jupiter moves every year, and Jupiter moved into Gemini as well. So bringing that expansion into what? Into the communicative house, the house of communication. These principalities, the god of this house, or the principalities of this house, is about mind. It's about communication, right? The element is wind. So it's really about the swift movement. Everything starts to move along, swiftly when they get into this sign. Jupiter was a little slower pace. Now it's like, moving it along. It's already at 2 degrees. And it just moved in before all the planets came in. Jupiter was the first one that got to Gemini first. Like, beat y'all here. Now everybody passing it by. So the stellium was a beautiful parade. Remember, we had the planetary parade. A beautiful parade where all the planets are marching through, right? Marching through this house or this sign, and they were bringing the good news. It's like a happy march. And here comes the good news, even though some people probably can't see it yet. But know that it has come to bring the good news as the messages of wisdom in the wind, right? Being in throat chakra, being in the atmospheric body, the messages are all around us, and we're seeing that more. There is room for positive and effective communication with all this beautiful parade. Everybody bringing in the good news. Jupiter bringing in its expansion. Venus bringing in her beauty. The sun is bringing everything to the outer world. When the moon comes in and aligns with Gemini, it's bringing our inner world and our emotions. So even in our emotions where we may not feel like this is good news, at least when the moon aligns with it, it brings your inner world and your inner emotions into the good news, to get a peek at it for at least about 2 days, right? So faithfully, you use these 2 days wisely and really get a peek at what this planetary parade and this stellium was bringing to the plate, bringing to the forefront, which is a positive outlook, effective communication, a positive outlook on what has been happening so far. With all the cosmic shifts and the things that have been shifting in all of our lives in varying ways. But now with discernment, if we really worked our wisdom, and with discernment in Gemini, we can find the complementary balance, right? So Gemini being the house of God or principalities that represents the mind and communication, it governs our mental capacity, right? And expressions as the messages and information move through the wind, often very swiftly. As I said, they move quickly. It is also about going within, as the wind represents eastward direction. Remember, for those of you who saw the video, if you didn't watch the video when I said elements are directions, east is the wind. So as we're in the gate, right, these are the 12 gates. As we are in the gate, we're at the Gemini gate right now. Right, the god or the principle that represents this Kemetic wise would be Tahuti, right? Mercury is the ruling planet, because all of this is about communication, messages. Tahuti keeps the records, keeps the score, passes the message, keeps the record, you know, keeps record of things, kind of like the Akashic records, right? If you want to tap into the Akashic records, now would be a good time to tap in and get the messages. Ask your higher self. Go into meditation, speak to your higher self, ask your guides. Now is the time to really connect with your galactic family, your celestial family, your guardian angels, your archangels, all that surround you, you know, your selective, you know, your divine hosts that are around you, right? So this is a time to go within. East, the wind is east, and east metaphysically means to go within. So we're now in an eastward direction in the stars. So if you're looking on the map, the wind means east. So we're heading east, which means we're heading within, right? And as we go within, we realize and we see that the sun, the moon, Virgo, all of them were in an exact conjunction at 16 degrees. And this 16, it represents something. I had it, but, you know, I lost it. I don't have it right now. But look up what 16 means and what it means for you. Right? And the 1 and the 6 is 7, which is mind. 7 represents the mind, or for me, I always say manifestation of the mind. So that's 3 times that of these numbers, 16, 16, 16, or 7, 7, 7, and 3 is creative completion, right? It's the creative completion of each. So in the 16, I see what I could share with you that I saw in it is the creative completion of 1. Unification. So if I saw it 3 times, it's telling me creative completion of the 1 that is in the 16, which means unification, and the 6 plays a big role as well. The 6 being the receptive completion. So 3 times of receptive completion, right? And the 6 plays a big role as this falls on the 6, 6, 24, as I call it, the 666, which is another 666. So you see it there, and you see it in the 16. The 666 truth resonance is a loud resounding rings that echoes the receptive completion. And this is a message of the great receptivity, as we are to be listening to the wisdom in the wind. Right now, the action that we could be taking is receptive, being receptive. I wish I had my cards out here to highlight, to show to you, because there is some cards that I pulled this week, well, for the waning phase. And 2 of the cards that stand out to me, they were throat chakra cards. And one was the awakening genius, which is about birthing new ideas and knowing that your ideas matter. This was actually the helping card, that what can help us. The message in that card reading is that what could help us is utilizing the knowing our creative expression, knowing that our ideas matter, and that we're birthing something new. A lot of us are birthing something new, and we want to have discernment in all of that so that we can bring that forth into our expression, right? So that's listening to the wisdom in the wind. And another card was the throat chakra card of a tall tale, and this is like a warning to us. It's asking us to stop telling the same story, like stop holding that old narrative that holds you, that binds you to a negative situation. Stop manipulating to control an outcome, because we do that. We might not look at it as bad manipulation, but we want something to happen a certain way. So we, with our words, we also need to not be in denial, right? Move away from denial and not let others influence the work that you have. My divine God bodies, my 144, my infinite beings, those of you, the chosen of the chosen few, we got work to do. Do not let others influence what it is that you are supposed to express, because the throat chakra is about expressing, right? So these are 2 of the cards that came up in regards to this, right? And as we are in the throat chakra season, this really, like this final stretch of the throat chakra season, because this is the final stretch. We were here for April, May, June. Yes, we're about to enter into the next chakra season, which is going to be the third eye for the next month. But right now, in this last stretch of spring, we're finally entered the throat chakra season. And what better way to do it than to be in the new moon in Gemini and have this stellium in Gemini, all the planets here in Gemini, which is about expression. It's about communication, right? So we want to break free from old narratives that have held us back, where the ego is holding on to an old narrative that wants to protect us. Remember, the ego only wants to protect, but we have to sit that ego down. We have to have a death to ego moment, which is what Pluto has been helping us do with its revelations. It's a transformation revelation. It's a death to rebirth type of transformation. So whatever revelations you've been getting from January till now is really unfolding in a beautiful way for us right now. This is the good news that the parade is bringing. It's been going with you thus far from January, being a burden on your plate as well, added to the eclipse. I would say it may have felt like a burden, but to me, I see it as a welcome challenge, that when the eclipse season came, it even amplified, highlighted that revelation so that you can work through it some more. But that's if you take it that way. It's how we receive things. And this is why this message, don't I know it, birds? There go my blue jays. This is why this message is so important, in how we receive things and being truly receptive and listening. How well are we listening? How well are we taking in information without feedback, without holding on? We got to really watch our mind. We are in this house that is about the mind. So watch your mind. Be very mindful. We want to take out old narratives and things where we feel like I got to protect me. I can't let this happen to me again. Move away from that type of thinking. If there's something that happened to you, I'm inviting you to take a deep breath and move away from the fear-based thoughts of wanting to protect through fear, in the sense of, I don't want this to happen to me again. If you have that thought, then you're in fear-based. And I'm not saying we should want it to happen again, but we also should not focus on what we don't want, because where attention goes, energy flows, and the result shows. What you resist will persist. So this is not the time to focus on what you don't want, but it is a time to focus on what you do want. What do you want from this experience? What has this experience or this situation taught you, right? And I know January was a big deal, because that is when the sun moved with Pluto into Aquarius. So it brought it into your life, world, and affairs. It brought it into your outer world. Whatever revelations that were maybe behind the scenes, it brought it to your outer world in January. So although it may not feel good, it is a beautiful transformational revelation that is to be brought forward now. What is the good news? What did you get? We had a couple months to get over it, y'all. I'm not saying get over it. Let me not be insensitive, but we had a couple of months to digest it, to assimilate the situation, to find the truth resonance and where the divine wants to take us in our next step. Because this experience teaches wisdom, and the wisdom was being brought to us with that full moon in Sagittarius, right? So I digress. Let me go into that, because I want to get the aspects out to you, right? So as we are in the throat chakra season, we're in the throat chakra season. This highlights, it highlights that for you. It highlights the throat chakra season for effective communication, right? We are to practice the receptivity as the receiving end of communication. Receptivity, listens, just listen. Sometimes when you hear your mind going, just take a deep breath and say, I will listen. I will listen. Find the obedience within, find the discipline within, and just listen. We really need to be in a student mode, right? With the wind as the energy body, we are to go into our heart. The wind is the element of the heart as well. So we are to go into our heart and activate the authenticity. Our higher heart brings us into our authenticity, our soul sovereignty, when we're being really authentic. right? So activate the authenticity and bring it into our elevated throat chakra to express it in the atmospheric body. And I say elevated because we want wise communication. So in our higher throat chakra, which in order to be that elevated and in your higher throat, you want to be receptive. We want to really practice listening, so we can be in the right place and we can express what we need to put out in the atmospheric body. Remember, the wind is the energy that moves, and where the energy moves, where you move it, where we move it, we put it out there in the atmosphere, and therefore the energy exchanges. This is the Tahuti in the wind. This is the elders in the wind, the wisdom in the wind. Our information field, our auric field is already imprinted out there. And depending on our energetic proximity, we're already communicating with each other already. So being mindful of what the true energy that we're putting out there. Not what you say you're about, but what is in your subconscious mind, because that is being pressed out in our life, world, and affairs. And oh, it is showing up. It's showing up and it's coming back. That's why a lot of people have been feeling what they've been feeling for the past couple months, because you've been getting the boomerang effect. You've been getting hit with the boomerang. So the boomerang been coming back, pow, 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 right? And it's like, okay, now look up and be like, oh, that's my boomerang. You know, pick it up and own it. Accountability, responsibility, which wait till we get to Saturn. Saturn is the one that brings the responsibility. So as I go into this, let's look at Venus, Mercury. We're going to look at the planets, and then I will go into the aspects. So with Venus traveling in exact conjunct with the sun since the 4th, right? It was moving with the sun. So now whatever Venus picked up from coming out of its house of Taurus, new perspectives, bringing those new perspectives that we should have gained if we were doing the work, in the challenges that you might have seen, it was to bring perspective. By the end of that Taurus cycle, it was to bring perspective. So that true perspective in what we value in our material world, in our possessions, our relationships, the beauty is the value. How we see that value is the beauty, and that is being enhanced as it's moving with the sun and bringing it into our outer world, that we see this beauty like for real, for real. Some of us may have been sensing it somewhere, but the sun brings it into our outer world. So with it being conjunct, it's bringing the true perspective of beauty and value from the material world into the view of our outer world, as I just stated. And she comes from her home in Taurus, as I've explained. The sun amplifies this perspective for us. That's what the sun does. It's like, boom, now you see it, right? And some people still want to ignore it, but that's what the sun does. And as the moon joins them in this cosmic dance, it brings our inner world and our emotions into alignment with the true perspective of beauty in our outer world. So it brings it from within. This is the dance. This is the kissing, makeup, right? And it has Venus giving it that beauty. So this is a beautiful, intimate scene, and Venus being the planet of love and beauty and all of that. It is, you know, the additive. It's the beautiful seasoning in the mix, as the sun and the moon come to this, you know, agreement of seeing the beauty in this, and bringing this beauty into the outer world, from the inner world and the outer world being in alignment, and saying, yes, I do see. This is where we should, in whatever our situations have been, we should be able to see that, yes, this is the good news. Venus plays in the stellium, in the parade. It's bringing its sign that's saying, hey, new true perspective. It's beautiful. Do you have a new way of looking at something? Isn't it beautiful? And that's the, you know, in the midst, right? So that's Venus. Mercury is in its home, as I said, home place. It rules Gemini. So being in its home as a symbol of messages through communication and travel at what? 6 degrees. So there's another 6 for you. Mercury is in this mix of this 6. It's in the mix, in the 6 mix. And Mercury is saying, again, receptivity. So even as Mercury symbolizes communication, it is highlighting to us what? Listen, be receptive, take in. Don't be so much into putting out. This is a learning lesson. Be the student that is learning something. Is really asking us to take the lesson, go into our heart, release what we need to release, and simply listen to the message, right? It's another confirmation of receptive completion. This amplifies the swift movement through the wind. Y'all know Mercury move real fast. So the swift movement through the wind moves us along fast. Mercury moves fast. So things are going to, pick up with this, gust of wind, right? So this movement through the wind and effective communication. So it also amplifies the effective communication. This is a good time to have those difficult conversations that we've been having a hard time having with loved ones, maybe on the job, whatever it is. This is a beautiful time with Venus there and Mercury there. It's a beautiful time to have that communication, and you with the wisdom now know to be more receptive in this communication. So you will guide this communication in a higher light simply by being receptive, right? And taking the higher road, not trying to be right all the time. Be right in here, and in here you know who you are. It doesn't have to be proven to anyone else. The truth needs no defending. Just be in your truth. The throat chakra is about being in your I amness. So be in that truth without having to defend it, prove it, and believe me, your communication will be much more effective. With that, this is to say that this is a Tahuti energy as well. This Mercury, as I said, the Tahuti energy that carries messages and records and records, messages and records. It records all information from the wind into the atmosphere. So from the heart to the throat, as I said, the wind is moving, the energy is moving, how you put your energy out, right? Tahuti, the messenger, it helps your imprinting out in the atmosphere. And also receptively, you're listening. So if you're listening, you're taking in from the atmosphere. Like I'm hearing this wind, feeling this wind right now. Let the wind speak, and pay attention to where you see the wind calling you. What is it showing you? Like right now, I'm looking at this iguana that's coming closer and closer, like just doing its thing, eating its grass. It's just grounding right now. So the message right now is just grounding. And take in what you're taking, take a deep breath and do some grounding, because we're in the wind. You may get blown away in the gust of wind. So ground, especially if you're used to being in your upper chakras, my really spiritual people, and up into the ethers. Take what we take in the wind, but also be tethered a little bit. Ground yourselves. As I see this and it looks like grounding will slow. I'm just getting this as it comes, y'all. Grounding, I'm seeing him move like this. So grounding will slow you down if you feel like it's moving too fast, because this is fast paced. This is wind picking up. This is Mercury with its fast pace. So just ground so that you can take it a step at a time, slow moving. Hang on to Jupiter if you need to, because Jupiter is moving a little, it's slower than the rest of them, and it'll help with the expansion, right? Blackbird just flew away. I also was seeing the blackbird when I was saying look around at what you see, and that blackbird was, and the squirrel. So those are my 5D creatures, my squirrel and my bird. And the blackbird is like, bird is spiritual thought. So strength. Look at your strength. What are your strengths, right? As the blackbird was on, now the bluebird, the blue jay is calling like caw, caw. And that represents communication and faith. So I'm going to put it together like this. Stay grounded so you can move a little bit slower at the pace that works for you. Focus on your strength, as the blackbird was showing, and then effectively communicate and call out, as the blue jay was showing, and it represents faith. So keep faith in what it is that you're doing. You may need to reach out and make a phone call, make that call to someone, call out. That's what the bird was doing. So grounded, build on your strength, make the call. That's how message gave it. And the squirrel is just eating his nuts. The squirrel's like, yeah, and get you some nuts. Right? Be grounded and just get you some nuts. Sit back and watch the show. Like how we pop popcorn. Squirrel's like, just sit back and watch the show. Don't let the situation take you out of frame, out of mind frame. Right? So Jupiter at 2 degrees has recently entered Gemini, right? Before all of them, made it first and all, right? And is making himself at home for the next year. Jupiter spends a year in each sign, about a year. Although it brings expansion, it is, struggling a little bit as it's furthest from its home sign in Sagittarius. So This parade of planets and stellium is a sign, well, this stellium in this sign really helps the expansion run smoothly. So, you know, as it feels debilitated, as they say, that's the word I keep hearing, it's debilitated in this sign. But and as I see that it's still about expansion. And these stelliums being there at this time is helping this, because it's taking the load. You know, so busy bringing in the good news, Venus, Mercury, everybody else, is not really so heavy on Jupiter. So I see where this stellium kind of is making it smoother for the expansion to be felt and had when we have all this good news and this beautiful parade, you know, of planets coming through. But please remember that as the planets pass, don't forget, Jupiter will be there all year. So take what you're getting now, take all the energy that it's giving Jupiter now for your expansion, and remember that, hold that, journal if you have to, so that as the planets pass, you know, Jupiter gonna be by itself until Uranus, you know, moves in there. I don't think it's moving in there for the rest of this year, but it's gonna be by itself until, you know, then. So with that, have that. I say that to remember that, so when we feel the stretch of the expansion, there you go, because it won't be running so smoothly. It'll be kind of hard to feel that expansion as the other planets pass on. So hold on to what you know now. Remember that expansion and let Jupiter continue to expand the messages, expand the wisdom in the wind, and let us be able to carry that with us, right? At least till we get to the next wind sign and pick up some wind, right? So that whatever's there may be trine with Jupiter, which Pluto is right now, but we'll get to the aspect. So that's the confirmation of Mercury. So Mercury is that moving fast, heart to the throat, right? Jupiter is being at its 2 degrees. Well, I gave you Jupiter's information. Okay, so I don't got to go back there. I gave you that. I want to make sure I give you all. So being at 2 degrees, it coincides with the numerology code. That was another thing. The numerology code for that day, which is 20. So if you count up all the digits for 6/6/2026, you're going to get the number 20, which is reduced to 2. Because it's just, if you look at one digit, it's simply 2. And this is highlighting the harmony of duality. This is what this 2 is representing. And the symbol, as it does that, remember, this is the symbol of Gemini as the twins, the 2 and the 1, the duality. So even the code of that day, the degrees that Jupiter in is highlighting the numerological code of duality, harmony and duality. So it's expanding that harmony and duality. It's expanding our view and our scope of harmony and duality. And so in the aspects, final part, the aspects. In the aspects, Jupiter is trined with Pluto almost exact at 2 degrees, right? Which expands the message from the transforming revelations that I spoke about. That's what Pluto was bringing. So it trines with that. So think back, whatever happened in January, whatever that situation was, the revelation that Pluto brought when it came with the sun, bringing it into our outer world, spilling over into our outer world and feeling uncomfortable. At this point, it's trined with that revelation. So look back at what was happening around that time and see what is the good news, what is the wisdom that you've gained out of that experience, so that now you can have a true discernment of that experience, discerning between the two, contrasting to get that complementary harmony from the duality, and saying thank you. Thank you for this experience, for now I know. Gratitude for the wisdom, right? So this is what was happening. It was transcending from that revelation from Pluto and Aquarius, right? It is bringing the expansion of the good news from the experience or situation, as I've just said, and it's also trined with the North Node in Libra. So the North Node is in Libra. These are trine. These are all the air signs. For those who don't know what trine is, it's all those there are 3 air signs: Aquarius, Gemini, Libra. So that's the trine. So with the South Node there, it's also helping with what we've been dealing with the South Node, with the ecliptic season, the social dynamic where we are having to face balance, ma'at, justice, the laws of ma'at and justice. Not revenge justice, but true justice through a true understanding, a change of perspective that allows you to see that side of the story, understanding yours, not putting anybody before you. It's a true harmony with the social dynamic. So we're harmonizing a little bit more with that social dynamic and what has come up and shown us in the revelation of this social dynamic in Pluto in Aquarius. So everything that's in Gemini right now, including Jupiter, the reason why I say Jupiter, because Jupiter was in an exact conjunction with Pluto, but all of them, all of those that are in the sign of Gemini have this trine with Pluto in Aquarius and South Node in Libra. So think about even Venus bringing beauty to the situation, Mercury bringing the message, the communication. What is the true message in that? And the sun and the moon bringing it from the inner world to the outer world. So we really have a broad perspective. We really are having help to have that higher, that bird's eye view, right? Another aspect is Saturn. Another aspect is Saturn and Neptune squared with the planets in Gemini, especially those that will be coming into an exact conjunction with Saturn at 19 degrees. So look for those that are going to be coming into, the moon already did, because the moon's already, passing out of Gemini. But the sun and Venus, which are kind of traveling together, they'll start separating soon because Venus moves a little faster. But they were at the same at 16 degrees. So they're going to be going into 19 degrees. And Jupiter, when it gets there, Jupiter probably won't get there till about halfway through the year or something, because it's only at 2 degrees. But be mindful of that conjunction, that exact conjunction. So although, well, by the time Jupiter gets there, Saturn won't be there. They'll meet up somewhere later on. They'll conjunct later. So although they are moving swiftly and carefree, through the Gemini wind, like I see all the planets are like, la, la, marching in the parade. Let's go. This stellium is beautiful. They carefree through Gemini in the wind. They all slow down at the Saturn checkpoint. Pump your brakes, checkpoint at the exact 19-degree conjunction to face the responsible decision in their course of action. So, perfect example, let's say with the moon, look at what just happened with the moon. Look at what was happening when the moon was 19 degrees. Somewhere through this new moon, there's something that we were probably doing where there was a moment that said, like somewhere Saturn chin checked you with the moon. So in your inner world, as your inner world, comes into this alignment, there's something that, and it's flying free with Gemini and bringing all this good news. There's something that's saying, but remember this, somewhere in the inner world, you got a checkpoint that says, remember this. It might be reminding you, especially being that it was conjunct with Venus, it might be reminding you of some type of responsibility with your perspective and how you see things. Good to have this new true perspective, but still be responsible about how you're making your moves, right? So responsible with the material world a little bit. Maybe your account, your bank account, like something may say, hey, check this bill, check this bank. Hey, remember, the moon would bring some kind of slowdown to your inner world or in your feelings to be like, hold on, I got to check something, checkpoint, right? And so Venus is going to be passing there pretty soon right now, and it's going to be the same thing. Hold on, let's check our perspectives, right? Especially while we're in Gemini, having discernment. Let's remember our wisdom, our discernment. The sun is going to be exact there, and the sun is going to bring whatever it is into the outer world when it's exact at 19 degrees. It's going to be an exact square with Pluto, with Saturn. So it's really going to be highlighting the responsibility aspect. It's like the overall look at the entire everything in the outer world. The sun is going to be like, hold up, like that song, hold up, hey, it's going to be like that, right? So that's that 19-degree conjunction. So they're going to slow down at that checkpoint. It's going to have them face the responsibility. And just remember, whenever Jupiter gets to an exact point, it's going to be the same thing. That expansion is going to have a checkpoint. Maybe not at 19 degrees, a little further down, right? So when they meet their exact conjunction at 29 degrees with Neptune, they will square with what they were finalizing. Because remember, Neptune is in its final degrees. It's the graduation, as I've been saying. So it's in its final degrees. There's whatever it is that we're graduating from in this lifetime, maybe from a past life. This is a major graduation. So these planets that come into an exact conjunct with Neptune is going to be having us face or square off, face whatever it is that we're finalizing. And it will be leaving this house with more clarity, right? When we face it and we see it, we'll leave with more clarity while entering into the trine in the next house of Cancer, because it's going to be moving into, those planets are going to be moving into Cancer, where now instead of a square with Neptune in its final degrees, it's going to be trine to Neptune in its final degrees. So get what you get out of the square when they meet that exact conjunction at 29 degrees. So the moon probably is already about there, if not already past. So in your inner world, it's going to look at, okay, this is what I needed to finalize. Okay, now I see. You're going to have a overall look at something in your inner world and your emotions, which should help with any negativity that we needed to remove, any fears that we may be working on. It should kind of help with that overall look when the moon hits that 29 degrees. Now I'm thinking, I wish I did this video a little bit earlier so you would know before the moon got here. Also, but everything in divine timing, it happens when it happens, and this is also reflective, so you can look at it and you can know what it is and still have the time to change the mind. We're in the mind in Gemini, so you still have the power to change the mind and the perspective of where it needs to be, right? Uranus being that drastic change, that revolutionary change. Remember, Uranus is still in Taurus, right? And we're still feeling the vibrations of that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction last month that really was earth shaking and quaking. So that would be part of that change, working that revolutionary change, right? So even if you get this later, even if you get it a week later, you know, reflect on it and still do the work so you can know where to place things on your cosmic map, because this is your cosmic body, all right? This is your map. So that's it with Neptune. Let me make sure. That's what I said about Neptune and the moon. Then there's going to be Venus as well that is going to conjunct. So what is it you're going to see? It's going to align with what needs to be finalized as well as it squares with Neptune in our dreams and aspirations, and, you know, Neptune being in the spiritual house. So it's going to finalize that in your perspectives of the material world. It's going to kind of square up with that, and you'll be able to see what's finalized in that perspective before it goes into a trine with it. All right? And then same thing with the sun. When the sun gets to 29 degrees, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be outer world, bringing the outer world of the overall view. You're going to see everything else. Now the sun brings the big bold light for you to really see what you're graduating from, what you're finalizing, as all the planets have given you that, you know, as a stellium moves, moon, Venus, sun, they're going to all show that to you. And then eventually Jupiter, but that'll be later on next year. By that time, Neptune may have moved into the next sign. But at least these three that I've mentioned, they're going to see a finalization. Oh, and Mercury. Mercury, which is what, at 6 degrees as well. So Mercury is going to get a checkpoint too with Saturn. So expect that when it hits 19 degrees to look at where that's going to happen. And it's going to get a whoa, Sicilies, because, you know, Mercury moves fast. So it's going to get a whoa, Sicilies, whoa on the communication, whoa, or you don't have to stop, but just check. It's a checkpoint. Check your responsibility in your communication, in your travels, in your messages. It's just going to get a whole, whoa, you're moving real quick there, you know, checkpoint. And it's going to get, when Mercury gets to 29 degrees, it's going to get the same square with Neptune. What are we finalizing in our travels, in our communication, right? And how we're moving swiftly. What are we finalizing before it all those planets go into Mama Cancer, the Cancer sign, the Mama sign, but it's going to be trined with Saturn and Neptune at that point. So I feel like that's a beautiful little aspect right there. First, they're going to get checked. They're going to get finalized, and then it's going to be a trine where they're in some type of harmony and flow And it's like now you're gonna be getting a yes when you're in that trine. It's like you're gonna probably more be getting a yes from Saturn, like, hey, this is it. And you're gonna see what's finalized in Neptune. You're gonna get that, oh, this is what I needed to come through and come to, right? So, you know, that's that information there. I believe I gave you the tidbitty. I know this was a long one, but I really wanted to get, there was so much information with this. And before I go, one of the last things I saw yesterday for you all, but for me it was earlier this morning, there were some birds flying, my spiritual thoughts, they were all flying in one direction. They kind of swirled around each other, and one bird went north. Like they just swirled around, they all went their direction, and then one bird went north. So what I got from that is, go forward. We may have to go forward alone. Do what you need to do. Assess what you need to assess. Yes, communicate, share the word. I'm sweating, and I don't really sweat, y'all. Share what you need to share, communicate, but know that, love yourself, honor yourself, and know that you may need to go forward alone. And going north is fire, the element of fire. So you may need to go north. What's the next fire sign? Leo. So Leo is where we're going to be restored to our rulership. So after we go through what we go through in Cancer and we get to Leo, I kind of see that happening ahead. It was in the cards that I pulled. Maybe I'll share those waning cards and do a video, because there was some information in those cards that really speaks to what's going to be coming up to Leo, up to Scorpio, and things like that. But I digress. I say this to remind us, the message in that is to be prepared to go north. Be a lone bird. Be by yourself. Be a spiritual thought by yourself. Take what you can get from the gathering and the collective. Birds of a feather flock together. So yes, that's heart chakra energy. Be in the heart. Be connected with others. I'm not saying be a loner, but know when to fly off and be in your soul sovereignty, and to do what needs to be done, you may need to go alone. Know when to pull away and head north. Means what? Head towards the fire. Head towards the passion. Let the fire spark your flame. Let the fire light your path, so that you know where you're going and you're moving forward in that trajectory. Right? So that's the message I have with that. This was a beautiful, remember all the numbers, the 6, the receptivity. Remember to be receptive. Be a true listener. This is what we're doing in the communicative aspect. And for the rest of this season, I'll continue to remind us about this receptivity while we're in the house of Gemini. We're in the house of God. I call it the God's house, the principality's house of Gemini, where we're moving swiftly. We're looking at communication, and we're looking at our mind, mental work, mental action, right? So take what resonates with you, whatever it does not, if it doesn't apply, let it whoop, whoop, fly like the birds in the wind. I'm still getting this sun moon alignment on me right now as the moon is moving with the sun, so I'm taking it in for y'all. Right? With that said, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Comment if you dare. Let me know if any of this resonates with you. If you don't have anything to say, just put up like, you know, some, what we in, wind. Give me like 3 wind emojis, or give me 666, you know, the receptivity, or 616, 212. What numbers have been resonating with you? Have you been seeing 606, 616, 212, the 222, you know, 202? You know, just give me the angel numbers that resonate with you. Give me the element of wind, and just add to that so we can keep the algorithms going. Like, subscribe, 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 subscribe. Remember, the more subscribers I get, then I can possibly do a live. That is the goal, right? With that, with all of that, welcome in this beautiful house of God of Gemini, the Tahuti house. Each one, reach one, teach one. If you don't know where to start, start in your big, beautiful heart. Shine your light from the inside out, and be the candle that lights the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Peace, love, and light.